Hello, hello. Welcome back to my studio. My name is Mark, and I'm here in Eugene, Oregon, and my studio is Muddy River Clay. Today, we're going to look at using some oxides or pigments to bring out some really neat designs in faces. So I'll just jump right into it. Here is an example of what I call a clay soul. And these have little pieces of pottery in there, little pieces that help it become a rattle. And what I like to do with these faces to really bring out the creases and all of the highlights is to use some type of pigment. Now, you can use lots of different things. You can use something like a red iron oxide. And I've got some here. I will just caution you against using it. You can see it's in a bag. It's great. It's kind of rust or the components that make up rust. And so you really want to use gloves and you want to make sure you've got a mask on, but it leaves some really good results. And in short, what you do is you would take the oxide, you can mix it with some water, and then you could brush it onto a piece. So here's an example of a piece that's been bisqued. I would just go ahead and wipe it on, and then you could use a sponge to wipe it off and let it sit. The more that you leave the oxide in the creases, the more specific, element you're going to get with it. And so it's really fun what you can do with it. So I'm going to use something that is not an oxide. It's something by a local clay shop. You can see my bottles are a little messy there. But this is an interactive pigment, and these are sold by Georgie's. If you've not checked them out, I'd highly recommend them. They're out of Portland, Oregon, and they've been my supplier for years here in Oregon. So we've got this color, which is I think it's Winter and Storm, and that's going to give you more of a blue kind of pigment. And so you can see the accents are blue. I've also used other ones they have. This one's called Tree Bark and Facial Features. So this is something that I've been using for years, and there's just lots to choose from. Shine to it, it's going to be more of a matte finish, but it's really great if you want to highlight. It gives you some nice samples of what it looks like. If you leave it on and you don't rub it off, it's going to get really dark. So if you were making like a tree and you wanted to have that tree bark look, you could put a lot on and actually not wipe too much off at all. So it's not really a glaze. It's not going to have that beautiful. So again, this is what we're going for. We're looking to take something that starts off with bisque and then go ahead and we put it in and then we wipe it off. And it's really that simple. I don't do an overglaze over it. Certainly you could. If you wanted that shine, you could go ahead and put a clear glaze over that. That's not something that I do. So I find pigments to be a little bit easier to work with. You can see that it's really deep color, and we'll just go ahead and start brushing some on. So here's an example of what I call clay soul. So these are somewhere between 5 and 6 inches tall, and they're just fun little whimsical faces. And I have glazed them in glazes before, but I really find that the pigments or oxides or whatever you choose to use really just helps it pop. And I'll just go ahead and apply it here. Just like most glazes and stains, you can put on several coats and leave it if you want it to just fully take over. This is an example of the blue or the winter storm. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple of these and let them kind of sit in and soak in just briefly, a few minutes here. And then you'll see the magic happen when you start to wipe them off. So here's another one, the before. I am going to go ahead and glaze the body and the hair. But for the face, I'm going to go ahead and just soak in some of this pigment here and kind of sloppy with it. Just kind of make sure that's getting on the pores because I'm going to wipe it off. You can also use this on the bottom of your pieces. So I like to put a stamp on the bottom of my pieces just to show it's my design. So Muddy River Clay, a really nice guy online made those for me. And I'll show you what it looks like here. So I'm going to fill it in, and this will not stick to your shelves. And then let me have you stop waiting for what it looks like. I'll go ahead and just kind of wipe it off. So I've got it on the bottom, and you can see if I start to wipe away, it's going to fill in the indentions, and then it's going to help whatever pop out. You can see the face start to come together. Now, this is where the magic happens because I can leave it as thick or wipe away as much as I want to. So let's say I'm in a hurry and I'm trying to make a video and I just leave a lot of it on. It's really going to enhance whatever glaze you put over it. So in this case, I want to do a little bit more here, but you can start to see it really bring that design through. So I used several stamps and things on this piece, and how nice to have the design really come through. Now imagine if I used, say, a white or a light glaze over that. That's going to all really help that glaze pop out underneath. This is messy, so I typically do this over a sink, but I wanted to do a video today. And you can really see it come together. So again, I'm going to give you, here was a before. This piece has just been bisqued. And now I've got this pigment on. And if you're just joining us or you wanted to write that down, it's from Georgie's and they're called Interactive Pigments. And this one that I'm using right now is called Winter Storm. And while it looks black, it's actually like a dark blue. And again, I'll show you what it's going to come out to be. So this is an example of a piece that's gone through a firing and those blue elements kind of stick around. Now, here's where the artistic decision comes in. So if I leave this right now, it's fine, but I might want to do a little bit more work around the lip and around the eyes because I want it to enhance the piece. I don't want it to take over. So if you're moving too quickly with these and you don't take the time to really work it through, then it can look sloppy and it can look like, oh, it just looks like there's some marks or something rather than something intentional. All right, but that one's coming together. Work them off just a little bit more. And you can see every time I work that away, kind of brush that off. So that's an example of what pigments can do. And let me go back to the one that I started with. So this is an example of one where I only want to accent the face. But I know that when I wipe this away, it is going to bring that color in. So I've already kind of thought that into how I'm going to glaze this. So this piece looks kind of like a flower. And let me do one side of the face versus the other, just so you can see if I were to leave it on, some of it's going to burn away. So it's not going to be completely covered. But the more I kind of play with it here, it really is going to help it give dimension and really bring out the eyes and nose. And so now when I glaze this piece, I know these inner petals are going to take just a little bit differently than the outside of the body. And that's pretty much it. A friend introduced me to oxides and things years ago, and I only used the red iron oxide. And Georgie sell this. If you're not local, you want to get something local, you're probably going to be able to find a red iron oxide. And of course, that's just one of many that are available. And they're great, but they're a little more toxic, a little more dangerous to work. You got to be careful about inhaling them and things. So here's another one. Here's a gal, the bright light here. So here's a gal that I've made. So she is clay soul as well. And so I want to go ahead and her neck, and you can really just spend so much time with these interactive pigments. So, yep, you can glaze over these, you can leave them blank. And I think a mix of those really kind of work. So I can see from the camera that I need to get inside the nose there. So let's let her set for a second, let that soak in. I've got another example here. So this one is a queen, got some pieces in there. Another thing that you can do for pigments is instead of using a tool like something, here we are. I was looking for this. So instead of using a tool like this to paint the lines, you can use an interactive pigment to actually fill those lines in for you. Now I still have to clean it up and it's going to have a little bit different effect. But now instead of spending time doing these tedious lines, as I clean this up, it's going to leave that pigment in between. So let me continue on this one. I'll do the face and then you'll see it as start wiping away. This interactive pigment is just going to do some cool things. So I'm curious if you do something different. How many of you use iron oxide? How many of you have used pigments? What has been your success? I think they're really great for weathering things. So if you're trying to make something look weathered, a pigment can really do some cool things. So as I start to wipe away, some of that pigment stays in the line. So you might do both, right? You might do a little bit of interactive pigment. You might come back and have some underglaze and do that. It's just a different way of doing things. I do find this speeds things up a little bit because, manually going through and doing, lines and all that can definitely take some time. All right, let's wash away her face here. You can see it start to change the look at just using water to wipe these away. So this one, it's getting all over. I'm going to use that to my advantage and I'm going to go ahead and work it into the hair and the crown. And again, when I do the glaze that I want to do, going to really help fill that in. All right. Well, I want to keep this video short. So let me kind of wind down there. So here is how she's looking now. And now if you imagine me glazing the areas outside of these lines, that black, or in this case, that blue, is going to still remain. So it's just a really great way to fill that in. All right. So one last time, I've been using Georgie's. I'm not affiliated with them. I just support them. They're a wonderful clay shop out of Portland, Oregon. So they have a whole line of these interactive pigments. And again, the end result is it just really fills in all of the creases and things and just really gives you another way that you can approach these. So let me wind the video down there. Love to hear how you use pigments or oxides. Thanks for visiting my channel. And if you could like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. Have a wonderful day.